How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in another video. Welcome to another Detroit Lions 2025 NFL Draft Preview. So in the last draft preview, we wrapped up the offensive side of the draft previews and wrapped up the offensive lineman draft previews. Taking a look at the top day 3 offensive lineman prospects for rounds 4 through 7 of the draft. And in this video, we're gonna start wrapping up the defensive side of the draft previews and wrap up the defensive lineman draft previews by taking a look at the top day 3 defensive lineman prospects in rounds 4 through 7 of the 2025 NFL draft and wrap up the trenches in the process. So, quite a few prospects to keep an eye on for day 3. So we're going to take a look at them and see which names to keep an eye on. So, let's go. Starting off with defensive ends, the first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Notre Dame, standing 6'3", weighing 260 pounds, we got R.J. Oben. So for R.J.'s strengths, he checks all the physical measurables that teams want in a defensive end. Quick to set angles, adjust them as a run defender. Pass rush plans diverse, he'll keep blockers from getting a read on him. Creates surprising amounts of power when he gets leverage, drives on blocks. Covers a ton of ground when working side to side. Range stands out in pursuit situations. High effort player will get home on second effort rushes. Incredible body control coordination. Hard to beat from a technical standpoint. Quick to read and react as a run defender. Plays with excellent hand activity and speed. Able to maintain his path through contact. Able to layer his moves and get creative with his approach. In terms of weaknesses, though, he's too reliant on a spin move to get off blocks. Better athlete in close quarters than in open field. Length's adequate but won't beat the bigger offensive tackles. Slow to pop back up, regain his balance after slips. Burst is average by NFL standards, and his production dive bombed during his final year in college. In terms of his NFL comparisons, he's been compared to free agent defensive end Rashad Weaver. Overall, a lot of things like out of RJ's game. Does a lot of good technique, right? I think someone definitely keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Louisville, standing 6'2", weighing 275 pounds, we got Ashton Gillott. So for Ashton's strengths, high motor player, stays after it rep to rep, won't get lazy through snaps, has a good variety of pass rush moves at his disposal, knows how to string them together. Aggressive tackler, will throw his body around, work hard to get finishes, won't shy away from double teams or big blockers. His hard style, charging style helps to offset some of the disadvantages he has, which leads right to the weaknesses, which is he has a stubby build, lack of length, will make his projection a more difficult one for teams that value run defense. Not a natural lower body bender, will have some lapses when trying to turn the corner. Play strength isn't ideal for a power-oriented pass rusher. He looked less dynamic physically in 2024 than he did in 2023. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Braylon Trice of the Atlanta Falcons. Overall, one of the things to look at Ashton's game, has a very high motor, always plays hard. Definitely, I think, something to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Minnesota, standing 6'5", weighing 265 pounds, we got Josh Joyner. So for Josh, strength, explosive athlete, bursts out of his stance, attacks quickly, great change of direction skills, can outmaneuver offensive linemen to generate sacks. Great hand placement, shoots squarely in the chest very consistently, puts all the explosiveness into his upper body. He can force some knockdowns and put it back against the badly set anchor. Very good tackler, play finisher, works the end of his rep, turns back upfield to try and assist the second level defender. If he has time to use his length impressively, will measure well and has a great size-speed combination. It will stand up well to other NFL players when he gets playing time. He's also been listed as one of the top sleeper picks in this draft class because he's a long athletic toolsy pass rusher, still developing his craft as a run defender or hand fighter. And he has incredible upside, so he's this good now, he may not even hit his peak yet. In terms of weaknesses, though, he's pretty much just a pass rush specialist. Run stopping numbers have never been strong. He showed regression from 2023 to 2024. Needs a better anchor to set the edge. He gets faked out by play action, nearly always goes for the QB. Predictable pass rush game plan, a shocking power followed by a rip move. He gets bullied at the point of attack anyway, often loses the leverage bound thanks to misplaced hands, the aforementioned bad anchor. He gets moved out of the way when double teamed, asked to plug holes in the run game. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Adisa Isaac of the Baltimore Ravens. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Jaws' game, and, a few things to clean up, but his upside's pretty good. I think definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of West Virginia, standing 6'5", weighing 291 pounds, we got Sean Martin. So for Sean's strengths, moldable frame, outstanding 35-inch arms will find opportunities no matter where he lines up. Enormous tackle radius allows him to reach back into play, snag ball carriers from afar. Anchor has some flashes when he can stay square to blocks. Pursuit angle is impressive for a big man, could turn into better interior lineman than defensive end with some seasoning. In terms of weaknesses though, he lacks the firepower with his hand usage, late to throw out counters, search for outlets as reps go on. Strength discipline lacking for his stature, slow predictable pass rusher, limited burst, agility to disposal, lower body stiffness that prevents him from finding leverage and dipping underneath blocks. Pops up instantly on contact, loses the momentum as a result. Ineffective converting speed to power, plays without much violence to his game, unable to get penetration once he gets a step on blockers inside. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jalen Holmes of the Washington Commanders. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, but, a lot of things to clean up, and, there's a potential he could potentially go to defensive tackle if necessary. So, maybe someone that can play anywhere on the D line for depth. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Syracuse, standing 6'3", weighing 255 pounds, we got Fidel Diggs. So for Fidel's strengths, pretty bendy as an edge rusher, can turn the corner well after engaging, scooting around the lineman's frame. Very disciplined player, able to sniff out misdirection easily, is consistently in the right place at the right time. Good instincts for the ball, finds good paths to make the stop. Shows off the pass rush moves that a lot of college edge rushers do not have, especially a rip move that he puts together, as well as an overarm. Pretty explosive off the line, gets really good initial contact, can cause immediate pressure thanks to his huge hands coming in at over 10.5 inches. In terms of his weaknesses, though, was underwhelmed by his athleticism, especially during more of those linebacker reps when he looks slow coming after the snap. Doesn't move very well in any direction. Doesn't finish his reps as much as you would want. Doesn't shut off the block well. Often gets caught up in the arms trying to disengage but can't. Truly not a linebacker, should play more straight-up edge rusher. Doesn't get bonus points for versatility because he can't handle outside linebacker duties that aren't engaging the O-line. Not a hard hitter or a consistent tackler and has to wrap up and finish. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to DJ Wonnum of the Carolina Panthers. Overall, a lot of things to look at Fidel's game. Has a lot of great moves for the pass rush in terms of a technical standpoint. I think someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Texas, standing 6'4", weighing 260 pounds, he got Baron Sorrell. So for Baron's strengths, choppy steps, pacey, makes him harder to anticipate for blockers. Impressive feel for maintaining his rush angles through contact, staying after on his line. High effort chase defender, stays after plays through the whistle. Sounds hand usage, helps him create openings, find passive victory from rep to rep. Plays with good leverage for a stand-up rusher and maintains his balance when defending the run. In terms of weaknesses, that length isn't a deal breaker, but doesn't have the ideal reach advantage for staying the edge and playing the run. Lacks the power to push around big tackles. Was locked up last year in his matchup against J.C. Latham, if you want to watch some tape there. More of a serviceable athlete than an elite one. Straight line speed gets exposed when he has to drop into coverage. Has some stiffness in his change of direction that makes running stunts or catching backs difficult. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Cedric Johnson of the Cincinnati Bengals. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Barron's game. Does a lot of things right. Could be a solid depth piece for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of UCLA, staying 6'3", weighing 255 pounds, he got Oluwafemi Oladejo. Yeah, that whole name's a fucking tongue twister. In terms of his strengths, though, length stands out for his size. He knows how to use it. Good extension when his punch can get it used to it. You can use it to keep most tackles at bay when sending the edge. Natural speed, the power converter. Creates good push with his bull rush. Can knock linemen off their platform consistently. He's able to rush as a hand down or stand up rusher without limitations. Violent tackler, throws his body around, has incredible stopping power once he gets his hands on runners. In terms of weaknesses, though, has some tightness in his hips that keeps him from dipping under blocks, turning the corner. Average athlete by NFL standards will have to develop a more complete arsenal of moves as he enters the league. Segmented build with high hips will worry some evaluators with his body type. Extremely raw from a technical standpoint. May take a couple years to find an NFL pass rushing role. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to Derek Hall of the Seattle Seahawks. So overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, but he's extremely raw in a lot of areas. May need some time to develop, but, hey, maybe he could be a solid depth piece or something like that somewhere down the line a couple years from now. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of BYU, standing 6'5", weighing 272 pounds, we got Tyler Batty. So for Tyler's strengths, a pros and run defender, can knock back offensive tackles on first contact. Has some adjustability to his hand usage, can counter what opponents show him. Size allows him to move inside and out without being overwhelmed at the point of attack. Will raise his way back into place if he can't get home initially. Has taken some reps as a stand-up rusher despite his size. Has shown good open field athleticism in pursuit. In terms of weaknesses, though, not a long leverage player despite his height. Will be locked up too easily by tackles sporting over 34-inch arms. Tends to play tall after his initial rush fails. Will get uprooted out of his stance later in reps. Below average burst agility will likely keep him from finding his way into the early rounds despite an otherwise impressive profile. In terms of NFL comparisons, been compared to Isaiah Thomas of the Cincinnati Bengals. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Tyler's game. Very good against the run. Maybe someone that could be a rotational piece on running downs. And the final defensive end we're going to go over in this video before we move on to defensive tackles. We got hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6'4", weighing 265 pounds. We got Ethan Downs. So for Ethan's strengths, hits the standard size strength parameters that team want in their defensive ends. Strong edge setter, can outmuscle tight ends, compete with offensive tackles. Has experience as a stand-up rusher. Can work both as a defensive end and outside linebacker, so there's some versatility right there. Can work that edge. Charged up player, always pursuing the play, staying after the ball. In terms of weaknesses, though, slow out of the gates, works at an explosiveness efficiency compared to most offensive tackles. Stiff hips, lack of lower body bend. It'll make finishing around the arc extremely difficult at the NFL level. Approach is one-dimensional, relying on power to find the way to the ball. Production's bolstered by a lot of just barely finishes and late arrivals to the ball. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Brennan Jackson of the Los Angeles Rams. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Ethan's game. A few things, though, they could clean up and maybe get better at. But, hey, I think someone I'd keep an eye on for sure. Now moving on to defensive tackles. The first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Nebraska, standing 6'5", weighing 296 pounds. We got Ty Robinson. So for Ty, he's the prototype tackling defensive tackle. It's a very good tackling the ball carrier because he's a human tower that doesn't let go once he gets his hands on a runner. He's oddly short arm for his size, but he's smart and precise. In terms of strengths, versatile defender, can play outside of the offensive tackle without being at a physical disadvantage. Explosive off the snap, covers a ton of ground when he's given free lanes to rush. Stature's imposing even though his length is modest. He's able to charge his way through angles, finish reps once he gets an angle. High energy pass rusher, plays with his hair on fire. He abused all Colorado's O-line, was a blend of power and effort if you will watch some tape there. In terms of his weaknesses though, tall build, average length, leads to some reaching and leading when engaging with blocks. He follows somewhat when you're straight ahead rush pass rather than being someone who can wing side to side. Long torso can get him tangled when fighting his way through hands, trying to escape a block. Run game's consistency is a work in progress. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired defensive tackle Henry Anderson. Overall, one of the things I got to tie his game, very good at finishing the play and getting to the ball carrier. Well, a few things to clean up, but I think someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Notre Dame, standing 6'1", weighing 288 pounds. We got Howard Cross III. So for Howard Cross, he's your prototype intangibles defensive tackle because he's the son of longtime pro Howard Cross Jr., and he makes up for his lackluster physical dimensions with great energy and agility in his play. So definitely has some football bloodlines too. If anyone's wondering about Howard Cross Jr., he was a veteran on the New York Giants. But in terms of Howard Cross III strengths, he generates plenty of push with his combination of leg drive, pad level, discipline, wear eyes when stacking and shedding blocks in the run game. Energetic player, pops back up, races his way back into the play, gets out of his stance in a hurry, has the quickness to compete at the pro level, nimble and flexible both through contact and in pursuit. Rare power for his body type, has the hand speed to develop as a pass rusher, incredibly comfortable playing through awkward angles, anchors against double teams effectively. In terms of weaknesses, though, squatty frame without much weight or length will be below the threshold for some teams. Very small tackle radius, gives him trouble when he has to finish through blocks or in space. Pass rush dies out if he doesn't create movement. Short arms and precise placement prevents him from winning many hand fights. Too quick to give his back, turn away from the push blocker to try to find another way around. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to free agent defensive tackle Curtis Brooks. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Howard's game. And oddly enough, the Lions had him also practicing at fullback too for pro day reps. So I think this is somebody the Lions will definitely keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oregon, standing 6'2", weighing 342 pounds. We got Jamari Caldwell. So for Jamari's strengths, great athlete for his size, fluid movement, good get off, flashes strength when he pushes pockets with his bull rusher holding his gap, has good pressure production for a nose tackle, has potential to be a 3-down starter in the NFL, flashes decent pass rush moves like a slim in a club, regularly wins the leverage battle, high motor player, consistently tries to make a play on the ball through his array of moves, can get pressures through multiple methods. In terms of weaknesses, though, stumpy, short build, limited arm length, carries bad weight, has potential conditioning concerns. Undisciplined player, has a poor habit of blowing his assignments at times to make a play. Weathered a long career of minor lower body injuries throughout his college career. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Colleen Saunders of the New Orleans Saints. Overall, a lot of things I got Jamari's game, but a lot of things he's got to improve on conditioning-wise, and also the health history. That might come back to bite him, so it will be definitely a gamble to take him for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of SMU, standing 6'3", weighing 298 pounds. We got Jared Harrison Hunt. So for Jared's strengths, slips away from the hands of all linemen, disengages with ease, athletic enough to get away before they have time to reset, good straight line speed moves well laterally, can reasonably catch up to a QB who tries to scramble out of the pocket. High effort player, finishes play strong, always looking for ways to impact the play. Throwing his arms up for pass deflections at every opportunity. Quality strength profiles in the upper body that generates good push. Allows for pressure to leak around and around him. Works back to the ball effectively. In terms of weaknesses, though, subpar run defender, easily redirected away from the ball carrier by pulling guards. Doesn't fill the holes well, can be powered through by heavy power backs. Lacks a true bag of pass rush moves, with a lot of shoving and muscling, but not much technique. Falls off balance at times, needs a better anchor. Doesn't get a lot of power from his legs despite all the speed that he has going behind him. Profiles is more of a situational pass rusher than a true all-around player. Currently, may need time to shed that reputation. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to now retired defensive tackle Rodney Gunter. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Jared's game. A few things to clean up that he's subpar at. But I think someone to keep an eye on for sure for depth. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Alabama, standing 6'4", weighing 302 pounds. We got Tim Smith. So for Tim's strength, he's built like an NFL lineman, big lower half, good weight distribution. Showcases great awareness when it comes to stacking, shedding blocks, and time to snag runners as they pass by. Violent tackler can generate a lot of force with his upper half. He's able to create pushback as a bull rusher despite having average length. Brick wall run defender, can take on double teams without giving up ground or being torqued out of angles. In terms of weaknesses, though, he's a power merchant. Doesn't have answers if opponents get shut down in an area of his game. Technique isn't poor, but he's a predictable matchup for most blockers once they get a few drives in. Lack of pass rushing outside, why can we keep him out of the top of the draft? Limited range was an issue in 2024. It will be a problem as a pass rusher going forward. Slow and steady rather than disruptive with his approach. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to Jacqueline Roy of the New England Patriots. Overall, a lot of things to like out of Tim's game, but a lot of things he needs to clean up in terms from a pass rusher's perspective. You know, just technique and a lot of things that need to be improved on. But hey, maybe someone that could develop into something a couple years down the line. So our next player we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Georgia, staying 6'5", weighing 280 pounds, we got Tyron Ingram Dawkins. So for Tyron's strengths, Haynes late, land with a heavy thud against good competition. Able to consistently get about 2 steps of pushback at O-lineman. 5-star status is highly valued by NFL teams. He uses his hands well, carries good upper body muscle. Much of the weight currently on his body seems to be muscle, which bodies well for strength profile. Moves in long strides, can find good lanes to make plays. Aware of the field, able to correct, diagnose fakes, play action. Well attuned to the rhythm of the games. In terms of weaknesses, though, he doesn't pop well out of his stance. Takes a bit to get ready before his first step. Weird tweener build, really doesn't work for him. Probably needs to make a choice at the next level because he doesn't have a good profile for either edge or tackle at the moment. Had a tough time against Kelvin Banks of Texas, if you want to watch some tape there. Signifying worries that he might not be able to stand up to NFL talent. Heads off the field more often than his counterparts. May have conditioning problems that will make him stand out negatively from others in the class. In terms of NFL comparisons, he's been compared to Taven Bryan of the Indianapolis Colts. Overall, a lot of things like Tyron's game, but a lot of things that needs to be cleaned up on and needs to get better in terms of conditioning. But, you know, maybe someone that could turn into something a couple years down the line if he ends up in the right situation. And the final defensive tackle, the final defensive lineman, the final player we're going to go over in this video. We have hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'3", weighing 320 pounds. We got Nazir Stackhouse. So for Nazir's strengths, elite run defender, movable strength at the center of the defense. Mound-like nose tackle, will be able to change the course of the run game, restructure offensive game plans. He blasts back guards and centers with his punch. Play strength made him look like a man among boys even at the SEC level. Eats out double teams, won't be moved out of his spot. Showed good awareness of his surroundings against South Carolina and reacted quickly to shed if you want to watch some tape there. In terms of weaknesses though, lower stamina player will need to be managed on a snap count at the next level. Somewhat one-dimensional player, maybe a nose tackle only at the next level. He'll be off the field on most surefire passing downs. He lacks the agility to change angles or get on the hips of blockers. Showed some occasional waist bending against Mississippi if you want to watch some tape there. And it will need to be more disciplined with it to avoid future balance problems. In terms of NFL comparisons, getting compared to non-retired defensive tackle Dontavius Russell. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, but some conditioning issues and somewhat one-dimensional. Just seems like a bit of a one-trick pony when it could, but he's good at the one trick he does in terms of stuffing the run. So maybe it's a rotational piece that could come in as a player on running downs. And that'll wrap it up for this Detroit Lions 2025 NFL Draft Preview. In fact, that wraps it up for all the defensive tag linemen per draft previews for this season. So overall, a lot of interesting prospects to keep an eye on for day 3 of the draft in terms of defensive ends and defensive tackles. So quite a few interesting names to keep an eye on in this draft class. So yeah, since we all know D-line is a massive need for the Lions coming into this draft, especially trying to find another edge rusher to complement Aiden Hutchinson. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for this one. So in the next draft preview, we're going to continue on the defensive draft previews for day 3. And we're going to take a look at some of the day 3 linebacker prospects to keep an eye on for rounds 4 through 7 of the draft. And that will be for next time. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I'm going to say, and I'll see you all whatever I make next. I'm out.